So picking up where we were just talking about, the grains don't normally present themselves in a very obvious way, right? Sometimes you might get it kind of handed to you on a platter that way, but most of the time it's going to be a little bit more disguised. I'm actually going to play one type of music for you just to give you an idea. This is one. It's by a band called Snarky Puppy. If you've heard of them, they're a bunch of really talented musicians. And this is one example where, again, if you want to try and pick out where the grains are, the whole band is agreeing on a very intricate series of where these grains are. But it does get a little harder to pick out. We'll just listen just for a moment. I mean, it sounds like it's all over the place, but the grains are every single person in it's probably a like 15-person band is all agreeing precisely on where those grains are. And they're also using this grouping technique that we're going to talk about now. Now, I want you to picture this time, instead of a row of dots, I want to picture the white notes on a piano. If you covered up all the black notes on the piano, the white notes, if you think about it, sometimes it's a common question, why are the black notes grouped 2 and then 3, 2 and then 3? And it's a logical question. You think about, like, why do the things have to be grouped that way? Well, think about it this way. If it was literally all white notes, in other words, there wasn't 2 rows of notes, it was just all the white notes on the piano, or if it was white, black, white, black, white, black, white, black, and there were not groupings where you had a couple white notes in a row to separate out the different, the pair of black notes and the trio of black notes. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, go look at a piano a little bit more closely in case you have never looked at it that closely before. You'll notice 2, 3, 2, 3. And if you picture just the white notes, or you picture just alternating white, black, you would have no idea what note is what, because none of them stand out from each other. And so having those groupings of piano notes actually makes it much easier to find your place. And that's what we're going to talk about here. So if we have a series of, I'm going to put on the metronome here. And now this probably even sounds like grains, like bit, 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 little dots. And you could think about, let's take groupings of 2. And what we're going to do is we're going to put them where we're going to play the beginning of the group. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, like that. And we're going to put the beginning of it on our right hand as a slap on your instrument, right? This gets a little trickier to do on bells and shakers. It's kind of impossible to do on shakers. But if you're drumming, or if you want to air drum, or pick 2, like your thigh and your knee, might be a good way to do it. But we're going to put our right hand as a slap on the 1, and our left hand as a bass on the 2, or the non-1, right? 1 is going to become the most important thing, okay? So if we hear these things, we can start to break them down into more and less important notes, like this. 1, 2, 1, 2. Just do this with me. So this is groupings of 2. You could almost think of it like 8 notes, 1 and 2 and. But where it starts to get useful is, what if I want to do groupings of 3? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Again, my right hand is a slap, and it's just doing the 1. My left hand is filling everything else in. Or what we could do is then group it into 4s. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. right? So those 2s, 3s, and 4s are the most common and useful groupings. Why? Well, 1 is not a grouping. 1 is not combining things into more important and less important. It's just a singular. It's indivisible. And if it is, if you can divide it, then you're not dealing with grains anymore. Because remember, the grains are the fastest rhythm that we can deal with. And if we start talking about 5 or more, it's really just a combination of things that we've already done. You could even argue that 4 is just 2 2s, right? But I'm putting that in there to allow a little bit more variety. But 2s, 3s, and 4s, everything that we're doing can be broken into that. So now, what I want us to try is I want you to clap the grain this time. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take steps. I'm gonna move this out of the way for a second. We're gonna take steps at the beginning of each of these groups. So this is more of a movement, rhythmic movement exercise. So let's get the grain going here. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna just take steps on, let's start with groupings of 2. Ready, go. 1, 2, 1, 2. I'll back up so you can see me a little bit better. I'll raise my voice so you can hear me. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And if you want, you can move around a little bit. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And go ahead and move your weight. I'm trying to stay in frame, but go ahead and move as much as your room allows you to do it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now let's switch to 3s. And 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And take a step on each one. Now let's go 4s. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It starts to become a little hard to not lose your balance in this case. Well, you guys are experts in movement, but for me, it's a little harder. 3, 4, 1, 2, and stop. So we have 2s, 3s, and 4s. Let's do a little exercise now. We're gonna do 8 of each. 8 2s, 8 3s, 8 4s, repeat. 8 2s, 3s, 4s, again, 2s, 3s, 4s. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, again. You count for yourself. And stop. All right, so that was 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 8 of them each, 8 each. So now what we can start doing is we can turn this into drumming. Now, if you remember from before, I was doing different groupings where I was playing the 1s as slaps and everything else as bass. And you can also play 1 as a bass and everything else as a tone, so that we're trying to keep our dominant hand on the beginning of the group and our secondary hand on the inner notes. So let's try that same thing we just did. If you can grab your drum, or you could probably do this with a bell because we're not doing it crazy fast yet. And we're gonna go 8 2s, 8 3s, 8 4s. Again, 8 2s, 8 3s, 8 4s. And we're going to keep the dominant hand on the bass and everything else on the tone with the secondary hand. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. again. Now, it's a little artificial to do all that stuff with one hand, so let's do it one more time. This time I want you to alternate hands. Still have the same sounds. This is a little bit of a coordination mind twister. Still have the same sounds, but we're going to only go right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. So we're doing groupings, and we're also mixing in a little, I'm sneaking some drum exercise technique in there. Here we go. Now, so we're going to start off, the twos will be the same, because we alternate, but then when we get to threes, we have to switch sides, right, left. Okay, so we're going to do the same progression. If this is too much for you, you can do it the one-handed thing again, but really try this new way of alternating your hands, because we want to get both sides of the body evenly developed. You are no strangers to why that's a good idea. Here we go. 1, 2, and ready, and go, and 1. Okay, now, hopefully you had good luck with that. Here's something that you've been doing that we haven't even been talking about. We've been changing time signature. We've been changing meter. Now, what's the big deal? Well, there is no big deal, but sometimes people get worked up and feel like that's a really complicated thing. But if you have a different approach, it's no big deal, because you're just counting groupings. And if you're counting the groupings, 8 of each, you're not changing time signature. You know, the things might be spreading out or compressing, but you're not changing meter. The counts are able to stay simple, and that's the point. We want to keep things from being unnecessarily complicated. Now, if you're still at the early stages of listening to this and you're thinking like, well, I don't understand what's going on. Fair point, right? But stick with it a little longer and you'll see that there will be a payoff, in that it will keep certain types of music that otherwise will feel inaccessible, entirely incomprehensible. It'll keep those types of music from being entire mysteries for you, right? So now let's try one more thing. And this time I want you to do whatever sounds you want, but instead of doing all of the notes, we're just going to play on the ones, right? And I'm going to play basses, tones, slaps. I'm going to always go in that order. How about this? I'll go bass, tone, slap, tone, right? Because that's 4. And so if I do the 4, it works nicely with the 8 of each thing. So we're going to play only on the 1. I'm not going to fill in anymore, but in your head, you're filling in. So in your head, you're going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, bass 2, 3, tone 2, 3, slap 2, 3, tone 2, bass 2, 3, 4. All right, I'm doing the whole thing, but let's put the metronome on. I'm not counting for you this time. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, and go, and. Okay, so hopefully you got through that. And again, as with all the other videos, if there was something you needed to go back and try again because it wasn't 100% or it wasn't even 90%, go back and do it now rather than saying, oh, I'll get to it later, because it might literally be the difference between spending 5 extra seconds, making sure you get it, or not hammering it home, or not clarifying that there is a gap in understanding, and then proceeding under being underinformed. So this is the beginnings of this grain concept. And for right now, if things are seeming like a little unclear, let me know if there's anything specifically in what I've done so far, because the next rhythm exercise group is going to build on this, and there's going to be some exercises. But for the time being, make sure that you're doing those exercises. I'm sorry, not the exercises. My computer's freezing on me, and I can't tell if it's still recording. I'm going to keep talking, though. Make sure that you are just okay with those different groupings. Being able to space out emphasis according to how many grains are in between, and then we will continue this at a later time. All right.